What about you guys? How's it going? I hope you're keeping well today. Hope everything is good where you are. Welcome to another episode of Let's Edit. It is very warm here in Northern Ireland, so I apologise if I look very hot and very sweaty right now. But I bet you like me looking hot and sweaty, don't you? So for today's Let's Edit, I wanted to actually go through an option in Lightroom that I love to play about with to help get me a lot of different sort of effects, and it's something maybe you haven't noticed before yourself. It's a little option known as the profile section. So I wanted to spend today's video just sort of running through the profiles, what they actually do to my images, how do my images look at the end of it all, when I use them, why I use them, all those different things. Hopefully by the end of the video you'll be able to use these a little bit more to help you out with your editing. So when it comes to Lightroom, we would have always set a preset. If there was like different sort of settings that you like to go to previously, you would have created what's known as a preset. And so say for pure example, I've got Lightroom open here and I have an image of this very handsome young fellow who's a upcoming photographer in the world. I wish him all the very best. He let me do some portraits of him. But you can see here, like Lightroom would generally come with a lot of built-in presets. I like to have my own preset here that I use a lot of times. I'm not going to use it on this photograph because you can see it's not very flattering. But if I want to, I can then say if I want to go to like say natural, bright, or let's go to bright. And as you can see over on the right hand side, a lot of these sliders have shifted. Now, I can then go in and change this preset if I want to. I can do all these different things. So they are destructive, the presets, so they can change. But it is generally good to set yourself a good base point to get yourself started off with. So I'm just going to reset this photograph just back to natural. Whereas it's only been within the last sort of few editions of Lightroom have we seen this profile section start to appear. Now not just in Lightroom, but it also appears in Camera Raw if you like to edit in Photoshop, or just go straight to Camera Raw if you want to, but you can still access all these different things and a reader. I just like to use Lightroom personally. And what the profile essentially is, whereas the presets are quite destructive, the profile is a little bit more of like a layer of sorts. So it's like a layer of an effect that you can then continue working around over your normal presets. So like I say, I've been really enjoying playing about with these sorts of things, and let's have a look at where we can find it here in Lightroom, shall we? So you can see here, sort of around the top-ish right-hand corner, there's like a little sort of collection of squares here. Once I click onto it, it opens up into the profile browser, and if I minimize all these windows here, you can see there's different categories that are being separated out into. Now if we start off here with Adobe Raw, now with Adobe Raw, this is essentially how Adobe is representing colors themselves. They're generally a default here, like Adobe Color is generally the one that's set up as default here. Now you can go to like Adobe Standard, Landscape, Portrait, all those different things to match up to the photograph that you're working on. And as I scroll through these, you can see as I hover over them, I haven't actually clicked onto any of them, but as I hover over them, it actually shows me what the effect can look like. So if I'm happy enough with that effect, I can click onto it and it's added on, or I can take it away. But you don't need to actually click onto it, you can just hover along here, so you can. And as you can see, there's like a little star in the top right hand corner of each box. You can actually add whatever ones you like as a favorite, so it's easy enough to get to. Once we go from Adobe Raw, we go into camera matching. Now this one's quite clever because most cameras nowadays come with their own built-in profile sort of section where you can add in effects, all those different things. They mostly stayed on JPEG files, whereas RAW files you actually have to do it all on here. So with camera matching, this is essentially Adobe trying to represent what those profiles and all would be on your camera. And as you can see with my Sony A7, these sorts of profiles would be on there already, deep, landscape, so you can more take a representation from your camera's point of view. Like for me, I generally have in my preset, I like to go to camera standard because that way it sort of would more look like what's come straight from the camera itself. And as I continue to hover over, you can see a lot of different sort of styles, different effects, so neutral, portrait, all of them. You can go in the legacy, and these are much more older sort of styles, so a lot of them now are black and white. Again, similar again, I can just hover over them, it gives me an idea of what the effect can look like. And this is where the real fun begins. Now we start to go into these other subcategories like artistic, and as you can see, they start to add in a lot of different effects. My word, look at that. It almost looks like I've added a lot of fake tan onto my face. They give me all the nice, really nice colors, changing the colors like more blues, magentas, pink. I can then go into black and white, where again there's a lot more different sort of effects in here. And sort of nice contrast, grainy black and white. One that I like to play about with the most is black and white 11, because it adds more like a matte black sort of effect. You can see with the shadows, all those different things. If I just click on to look a bit more matty, a little bit more subtle. And then as you can see at the bottom, we can then have black and white with representation of different filters. Then when we come from black and white, we then go into modern. So this adds a much more vibrant, much more colorful effects here. So modern 4, 5. Again, I'm just still hovering along these to see which one works the best. Another favorite of mine is modern 8. So again, it adds that more sort of matte sort of look here with a nice sort of rendition of colors. I like adding this on to my gig photography because sometimes the lights are looking too bright. If I turn down the vibrancy, it doesn't always look as good. Plus, to have that matte sort of style can look quite nice a lot of times. Then when I move on from modern, I have the final outcome, which will be vintage. So these are adding on sort of vintage camera styles. Again, they have that sort of classic matte style of look. Vintage 7 looks quite nice here for this type of shot. So you can see here, these are all just sort of different effects here. Now, what I'm going to do next is, I'm just going to go to one of them. Let's go to one of my favorites here, modern 8. I've clicked onto it and it's now added into my photograph. If I hit close, it takes me back to my window, and as you can see from the sliders, nothing here has been touched, nothing here has been tampered with. I can then continue on editing over the top of my profile if I want to. But what's pretty cool here is once you have added in your profile, a little slider opens up here known as amount, and this is where you can have the amount of which you want your profile to be added. So you can go all the way down to 0, all the way up to about 200, and as you can see, things start to go a little bit crazy here. I sometimes like to stick around the sort of 50 to 100 mark depending on the photograph. So yeah, you can just see there already, like we haven't touched any of the sliders, we've just added in a profile. What a difference this has made to this photograph. Keeping that sort of matty style around the jumper here, the skins are looking quite nice. I can then continue editing around this if I want to. But let's have a look at another photograph. So I've got some saved here into a catalog. I have this photograph of Brent Hines from Mastodon, and what I've done here is I've added on my modern 8. If I take it away, if I go back to say like Adobe Standard here, once this finally loads up, you can see everything is still looking quite vibrant here, even though I've turned down the vibrancy saturation because there's a lot of red light. I've done all the work that I've needed to as well, and then added on this extra layer with modern 8, and you can see how around the edges here, everything is looking quite matty and quite soft, which really helps lend a hand with this type of shot. And then as I say, I can then continue playing about with how much of an amount I want it to be. I kept it to 100 for this type of photograph. I felt it worked the best here. Similar again, I even use these sorts of things for the likes of a photo shoot. Probably one of the first times I ever really played about with profiles was last year for this photo shoot. This was with a local band known as Demari. I'll put a link in the description of their name so that you can go follow them, because they are a really good band. So as you can see from this type of shot, let's put it side by side. So you can see I've done all my different sort of things here. I'll keep the Adobe Standard so you can have a look here. Everything is still looking quite soft and bluey. Then I added modern 8, but went to 150 on here, so I increased it a good fair bit. So that way I held out a lot more softness to those shadows. Plus, look at how the colours are looking here around the lights. Added a little bit of a greeny type of effect here, which looked really nice for this type of photograph. Because for this shoot, I really did want to try and get this type of matty effect for these guys, and I felt this really worked the best here, and especially with how the colours are looking here, just looks absolutely stunning. I also like using the profiles in the black and white front. Now, I don't use too much of the filters or anything like that. This is very similar to when we had like a Silver Effects Pro. This is like Lightroom's version of Silver Effects. So with here, I have a favorite set to black and white 11. This adds a nice sort of matte grainy effect to the black and white. Now, I can always just go Adobe monochrome. That's just sort of a standard black and white for any of the Adobe products here. And as you can see, the shot is looking nice and dynamic. It's nice and deep. The shadows are looking brilliant. But if I add in the black and white 11 again, and keep to the 100, you can see here, it just adds a nice subtlety, a nice bit of grayness to those shadows. Makes it look quite vintage, makes it look quite retro, especially with having such a classical guitarist here like Slash. This is the actual Slash, by the way. It just looks really nice. It just helps add a nice softness to this photograph. I don't know, I just felt it worked the best for me. It's entirely up to yourself how you want your photograph to look. I can of course always add in a bit more deepness if I want to, or increase it if I want to have, but I don't want to go that to those sorts of limits. So I can understand where at the start Lightroom can seem very daunting to work around. There's a lot of different sort of sliders and buttons and all those different things you can play about with. But I think for getting started off with, profiles are worth having a little play around with. You can always download, people have created their own profiles here and there. I tend not to bother with that sort of thing because that's way above my limit there. But you would generally create these sorts of things using Camera Raw, input the profile, or different sort of photographers out there have their own profiles created, so I'm sure there's plenty of them that are offered for free, they're for sale, so they're worth maybe trying them out, seeing what type of effects you can get from there. Even if you want to see if you can create your own profile as well, see how you want your photograph to look like yours. Combine the usage of presets and profiles, because this is how, those sorts of things is how Lightroom become a lot more easier to work around. Just by having things like presets, profiles, all those different things, and then just playing around with whatever they give you. I mean, for me, you can see that I love playing around with the amount, because I can add more or less if I want to, but it adds a little layer, nice little bit of subtlety to everything else that I would be putting into my photograph. Do play around with it, it's worth having a little go, especially if you love the likes of some of these matte effects that I've been putting on here for, like, you know, people would consider that an Instagram-y sort of style. So do have a little play. I do hope this video has helped you. If it has, do let me know in the comments down below. If you like using profiles, let me know as well which ones are your favorite, which ones do you set up, do you have your own? Well, again, let me know in the comments down below, and do like, share, subscribe, stay up to date with future videos. You can hit that little bell icon as well so you can be notified from when another video is coming along. But until then guys, I now need to towel myself off because I am dripping here with sweat. But until then guys, take care and enjoy the rest of your day.